Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood Podcast. We are super excited again as ever to bring you our next episode, and we are flying today all the way from Australia, all the way to Missouri in the USA. And I'm going to introduce our guest, and we've got Lauren Lewis joining us today. Lauren, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So just to give everyone a little bit of context, I met Lauren on our Skool platform. The Skool communities are huge. We've got, I think there's around over 200,000 communities on Skool at the moment, and it's growing. There's about 22 million people on Skool, and we're obviously a very small dot in the ocean with our soccer platform. And me and Lauren got chatting, I believe it was over a post, and it was really ironic that we noticed that one of Lauren's missions and in her bio, and it's quite interesting. I'm going to read the bio out, but she does reflective journaling, habit practices that prioritize consistency. And everyone who's on our Soccer Pathway Pro program, one of the big things we've been speaking about over the past couple of weeks and months has been journaling and our football blueprint, trying to create habits and making sure we prioritize getting consistent. So hopefully, Lauren, I got that right. That's what's in your bio and that's what you do. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Amazing. Now, before we jump into all of the really meaty questions I want to get into with you and how I think you, with your experience and background, can help not only some of our players, but also more so some of our parents as well as they approach with things like this. Can you give us a little bit of a background and story and tell me a bit about your backgrounds and what did you do before you started doing this?
Yeah, so before this, and even now, I was immersed in wellness and personal growth, especially fitness. But alongside that, I was also a full-time stay-at-home mom. And that changed everything because it's one thing to talk about discipline in theory. It's a complete other to try and maintain habits when the day isn't yours, when you're tired, when routines get disrupted constantly. I didn't build habits to optimize my life. I built them to stay grounded inside of it. So that's really where my work comes from.
Yeah, amazing. It's funny, where we built our platform, it was based around the single mum or dad or the busy parents who just don't have enough time at all. And this is the whole reason we built our platform on Skool, so we could build a remotely based system where we can help mums and dads around the globe. And it's funny when you talk about trying to prioritize, you just don't have time for yourself sometimes, and you've got to get it into order.
Yeah, for sure.
So what originally led you into the space? Like, was there a particular turning point or experience that shaped your philosophy?
Mostly out of necessity. So as a stay-at-home mom, I realized if I didn't intentionally create rhythm in my day, I would lose myself in everyone else's needs. And I just couldn't rely on motivation alone. I couldn't rely on perfect mornings. I needed small, sustainable practices that worked inside the chaos. So that's when reflection became less about journaling for self-expression and more about anchoring myself.
And when you talk about reflection and journaling, is this something that you encourage people to do like once a day, once a week? Like where would you start with it?
Well, I do it once a day. But to start with, and this is really had a lot to do with my habit building, of course, was the experimentation with building my journaling habit, along with other little things. Like I would take my practice of building that and apply it to other things in my life. But the journaling was huge for me because of the reflection aspect of it. So now I do it once a day, but before it was whenever I could, because like I said, you can't rely on motivation. It has to be something that you're doing intentionally. So I knew it was something I wanted to do, and I really just fought for it intentionally until it became daily. And that was what was important to me. I prioritized that I eventually wanted to do it daily. And now I'm trying to focus on making it a twice a day thing, but I have perfected my once daily routine.
Amazing, amazing. I struggled with this, and I discovered journaling a couple of years ago, and I had to get to the point where I had to book it into my calendar as an entry for 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was just brushing it off, and I get to the end of the day, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow," but tomorrow never comes.
Yeah, no, I've actually told people whenever they've asked, like, how, if there's something they're having, it's challenging to get into their schedule, but it's not necessarily something they would do on a regular basis. It's easy to just brush off, and I'll do it tomorrow. I've actually said, put it in your calendar like you're booking an appointment with yourself. Give yourself the time block. So even when you're planning stuff for your week or your day or whatever, that time is already blocked off.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big things that we get, and I get this like with our players on the program, when we have our journal, which is called the Football Blueprint, they have to record in things like sleep. They have to record in the wellness, so when they wake up in the morning, how they feel. And there's a fair bit of stuff for them to do. And obviously, kids are under a lot of pressure with school and that. And obviously, you know, too much on the plate, burnout. But from your point of view, have you always been able to be disciplined? Or have you ever struggled at any point in your life? And have you burnt out trying to keep on top of this?
I've always had the capacity for discipline, but obviously motherhood humbled that pretty quickly. You can't operate on intensity when you're sleep deprived and in the midst of ever-changing routines. So I had to move from pushing through to returning gently. So that shift from force to rhythm is what I teach now.
Very good. Very good. So in regards to one of the things, I'm going to give you a little bit of a curveball question, but I'm familiar with habits, and if you get consistent with habits, you build them habits. But have you ever noticed, or have you seen when people start to build bad habits and don't realize it? And how do you get out of that? And have you ever experienced that yourself, where you find yourself down a track with bad habits?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's where the reflection comes in, and I think that's where the daily reflection, no matter what capacity you're doing it in, whether it's 5 minutes or an entire journaling session, 30 minutes to an hour, whatever that may look like for you. But daily reflection is where that comes in. You're pointing out to yourself the things that you don't like. Like, what did I do yesterday that brought me on track? You know, and that's what is important to me now, like constantly reflecting on what worked, what didn't work. And that's what I help other people with as well. Okay, well, if you didn't like it, what about it can you change, you know?
Yeah, that reflection's key. I love that one, and that's a great one. I'm just, apologies if you think I'm looking down, but I'm scribbling notes as I go as well, because I love learning new stuff as well. And I'm writing notes, and I've got a live call with all of our athletes around the planet an hour after we finish. And I love that one about reflection. It's a great one.
Yeah.
We were recently speaking, we speak a lot to our players and families about focusing on bite-sized bits of learning and processes rather than outcomes. Mm-hmm. So as you'd be aware, for an outcome for a soccer player might be scoring a goal, but they just focus too much on that instead of focusing on the small bits. And it's funny when you talk about that reflection, it's so relevant to trying to just reflect and focus on the small wins every day, and not focus on that big goal.
Yeah.
So what season of life are you in right now? Business, personal growth, career transition, where are you at?
I'm in a building season, but also a grounded one. I say no a lot more, which took me a while to get there. I'm a natural born people pleaser. And I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that. I am more aware now of what works for me and what doesn't. I'm still pretty much a full-time mom. I mean, my child doesn't go to school all day yet, so that's a big priority to me. So my business has to exist inside that, not outside of it. For a long time, I tried to make them two separate things, and that did not work. So everything I build has to be sustainable.
I love that. I remember growing up, and I was very fortunate to live with Nan and Grandad for about 5 years. And my granddad was someone I really idolised and looked up to. And he said to me, the greatest thing I'll ever teach you is the word no, and learn to say no to people. And I used to look at him and think he was so strange saying it. And now at the age of 46, I'm like, I learned no about 4 years ago. And it was the best word I ever learned, was to say no sometimes. I'm very similar. I'm the biggest empath. I say yes to everyone normally. I have a battle in my head now when I want to say yes, but I'm like, no, you've got to say no.
Well, I mean, I've thought about it a lot lately, and I feel like from my generation anyway, as a kid to a teenager, a young adult, it was very much part of the culture to get yourself outside of your own box and out of your comfort zone and say yes to more things. And so we were really taught the culture of say yes, 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 yes. You never know what opportunity might come your way. And that's ingrained in you, thinking, oh, if I say no, what am I hindering myself from? What opportunities am I missing? And so it's important to discern like what you should say yes to.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so true. Now, moving on a little bit to your work and philosophy, who do you normally sort of work with, and what are they usually struggling with? If you could give us a couple of examples when they come to you.
Yeah, honestly, I do think that my framework can work for just about everybody. It's not limited because it is very individualized. But I primarily work with capable, self-aware women, many of them mothers or leaders. They don't necessarily lack discipline, they just lack sustainability. And they usually come to me frustrated because they start strong, they can follow a plan, but if they miss one day, they spiral. And they struggle with all or nothing thinking, which I've been there, done that, guilt after inconsistency, overcommitting, losing themselves inside all of their responsibilities. And they don't need more motivation. They just need a way to return to their routines and whatever they have set out to accomplish without all the drama.
Yeah, I love that one. I think it's actually centering back into what's actually really important in that moment, and not getting caught up in the cables and the wires, as I always say it, because we can get so caught up sometimes. Now, one of the big things we get, it's really hard convincing some of our players and athletes and families, and sometimes it's not, but we get a little bit of resistance about journaling, trying to get consistent, doing everything, writing it down. We're in the era now of technology and everyone just wants to click a button, and it drives me insane. And I'm all for technology and I love Skool, but we get our players to download our football blueprint as a PDF, and they've got to handwrite it and then take a picture of it and then submit it. For you, what's the biggest misconception about people about journaling and habit formation that you found?
Well, and this is why I'm so passionate about it. Like when I talk to people about journaling, you can instantly see like the interest in their eyes go away. So it's funny we're having this conversation. It's just that journaling has to be emotional or aesthetic or profound to count. And it doesn't. Journaling is just awareness training. It's pattern tracking. It's catching your internal narrative before it runs you. And with habits, the biggest misconception is that consistency means never missing. And it doesn't. Consistency is about how quickly you recover.
Yeah, I love that one. I worked on one of soccer's biggest football projects with the Premier League and the English Football Association in 2011, and I was on it for about 4 or 5 years. And from 2011 till today, they've spent £2.1 billion on this project. And it was how to develop superstars. And one of the biggest, most interesting things that we discovered was the link back into education. And it was the link back into journaling and diaries and reflection. But it was really interesting. It was all about what we discovered was when you focus on just writing your diary out and reflecting on what you've done for that day, on the pitch and off the pitch, we actually found it formed focus. And when you form focus, you form habits. And it was so ironic that we were learning from education and school teachers on how to develop a superstar athlete. Because in the past, we were like, why would you listen to a primary school teacher or a high school teacher? And I think this is where the US have always had it right. You look at the college systems in the US, and all of the top athletes come out of the D1 colleges. And that's, I think, because they have that linkage between school and sport. And it's so good. So when you say like consistency, recovery, self-trust, what does that actually look like in practice?
Consistency in practice looks like showing up imperfectly. Recovery looks like missing a day and not turning it into a personality flaw. And self-trust, that looks like keeping small promises long enough that your nervous system actually believes you again. So for a full-time mom, especially, consistency might mean 5 minutes of reflection instead of 30, or movement at home instead of a full gym workout, returning after a chaotic week without any guilt. It's flexible steadiness.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to move on quickly because I know we are moving on a little bit with time. But one of the big things is how we focus on building a pathway or a framework for our program to follow. So when we talk about you, Lauren, when you teach a specific framework or methods, if so, what's it called and how do you make it work?
Yeah, so this might be the lengthiest part of this because I got a lot of information to give you.
Go for it. We've got 10 or 15 minutes to go.
So I teach what I call the habit reset. It's the name of my community on Skool as well. It's simple and repeatable. I do it in 4 steps. So first, you notice the pattern. Second, we'll name your non-negotiables, your daily non-negotiables. 3, we'll create a perfect routine. And I actually call that my milkshake principle. And we can dive into that a little bit after this if you want me to.
I love milkshakes. That sounds good.
Yeah. And 4, have a plan B for your off days. The power isn't about intensity. It's in shortening the gap between where you fall off and re-engaging. And that's how habits, they stop feeling fragile. And within that framework, there are 3 ideas that flow beautifully together in the habit reset. So if you anchor them under one theme of self-trust isn't built through intensity, it's built through follow-through. And those 3 ideas are the power of non-negotiables and keeping promises to yourself, why avoidance makes things bigger than they are, and consistency builds self-trust. So idea number 1, the power of non-negotiables and keeping promises to yourself. For me, non-negotiables aren't about discipline. They're about your identity. And non-negotiable is something that it proves to you that your word matters. It's not a massive routine. It's not a 10-step morning protocol. It can be something like 5 minutes of reflection, a short walk, drinking water right after you wake up in the morning. When you keep even one small promise to yourself consistently, it shifts something internally. So you stop outsourcing your stability to motivation. And motivation is a lie anyway. We could dive into that, but that's how I feel about motivation. You become someone who you follow through, and that changes how you show up everywhere else. The second idea of why avoidance makes things bigger than they are. Avoidance doesn't make things disappear. It just makes them expand. So when we avoid things like having a conversation, creating a habit, or completing a task, we add imagination to it. We catastrophize, we attach meaning, we build a narrative. And the longer we avoid something, the heavier it feels. So even if the actual action would just take 5 minutes, so avoidance creates emotional inflation, whereas reflection deflates it. And when you sit with something and you name it honestly, it usually shrinks it back to its actual size. So
I love that.
Yeah. And then the third idea, consistency builds self-trust. Self-trust it's not confidence, it's evidence. And it's built when your nervous system sees, I say I'll do something and I do. It's not perfect, it's not daily, it's reliable. And consistency it's not about never missing. It's about shortening the gap. I think I said this before. It's shortening the gap between missing and then returning. So every time you come back without all this drama, you reinforce that trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, you don't need external pressure as much. And that's the shift that I focus on inside my community. So just to tie it up in a pretty little package, non-negotiables create structure, facing challenges reduces fear, consistency builds trust and confidence. So when people learn how to return quickly instead of spiraling, everything changes.
I love that. I think it's all about returning back very, very quickly. And it's so important that we try and teach this off the pitch to our players to recognize moments when they spiral. We've just gone through a 7-week course of mental strength training, which is one of the courses within our platform. And it teaches that to recognize in that moment when normally you spiral, because as you know, in sports, you only have milliseconds to fix something sometimes, and it's really hard. And if you can't do it in your day-to-day life, when you're sat at home thinking, you got no chance on a sports field. So talk to me about milkshake. I love chocolate molds. What do you like?
All right. So my milkshake theory, I have this theory that years ago, I used to make protein smoothies. I say years ago, probably only like 2 years ago. I used to make protein smoothies because they were good for me. But I hated them. The flavor was awful. And, but I spent the money on the protein and all that. They're technically optimized, high protein, low sugar, perfectly balanced, but I didn't enjoy them. So I wouldn't drink them consistently. My product would just sit in the pantry and, basically be a waste. So one day I realized I don't need the perfect smoothie. I just need one I'll actually drink. So I started adding what I liked, maybe a little extra fruit, maybe some sweetener, still protein, still nourishing, but enjoyable. And suddenly I was consistent. So the point of that is most people are trying to build the perfect routine, the perfect morning routine, perfect workout plan, perfect productivity system. But if it doesn't fit your actual life or personality, you're not going to stick with it. So the question isn't what's optimal, it's what will I actually sustain? And that's the milkshake. You keep the core nutrition, but you customize the flavor.
I love that. I'm going to write this down. This is going to be a real good topic of conversation in my live call today, because I know for me, I've got a terrible sweet tooth. And when we talk milkshake, I was intrigued. My eyes lit up. I think speaking to our athletes who we've got all around the world, the minute we mention milkshake is the secret key, they're all going to be interested.
Well, you're welcome.
I will definitely steal that one on you, and I'll write a little note underneath to say it belongs to Lauren Lewis. It's the milkshake theory, so you've got the copyright.
I'm glad to share.
Now I want to finish off with this one. In the world of soccer, or football as we call it in England, we realized very early on in the piece that we were trying to do too much at the bottom. And what I mean by that is we were all trying to develop players individually, where we realized that if we start to mentor the technical directors better, they can mentor the coaches better, and then they can then develop more players. So it was a top-down approach.
Mhm.
One of the things that I love about what you do, and I think this is the link that I've seen, I spend so much time helping my players. I think I need to spend more time finding amazing people like you to help my parents. So if there's any mums out there, especially, who are just struggling day to day, dealing with the 3 kids, the 4 kids, all the sports, how can they, if you could give them the number one top tip, apart from joining your platform, of course, what's the number one tip you could give them to stay on top of everything?
Just make the place to start. That's what I'm going to give you. The place to start is, what are your non-negotiables? And that is always what I ask people. If they're struggling with chaos and all that, what are your non-negotiables? Like, what are the things that when you wake up every day, or even when you go to bed every day, and you're like, you constantly are thinking, I never did that. I never did that. I never get to do this. What are those things that keep popping up for you that you wish you could do? And if you did nothing else, whether it's on a daily basis or a weekly basis, no matter what the schedule is for you, if you did nothing else and that one thing, or if it's 2 or 3, whatever, obviously you want to make it small enough that you're not overwhelming. But that's what you are making that promise to yourself, and you're keeping that promise. So yeah, what are your non-negotiables?
Love that. I love that one. And I'm sure that's going to resonate a lot with the parents, and especially the mums of all the players we work with. Now, to finish off, obviously, if anyone wants to join you on the journey and they want to jump into Skool, I mean, how do they do that? What are the costs involved, and what's the commitment wise that they have to do to join you?
Right now, I've actually only had my Skool community for five or 6 weeks now. So it's still a free community. I've started doing a couple of challenges with my members just to, get people involved. Obviously, I have goals to build on that, but I just haven't implemented anything yet. It's still a free community.
That's amazing. I think that word beginning with F3, everyone's going to be so excited with that one. And I think it's important for those guys to maybe jump on that while it still is free, because all of a sudden it could be a paid community, and then all of a sudden, it hits them in the pocket. So am I okay to share your link with everyone on the bio on the podcast? Is that okay if I can cross share your bio to everyone?
Absolutely.
Amazing.
I have so much information I want to share with people. So yeah.
That's so good. Well, look, Lauren, it's been amazing. A big thank you from me, the Raymond Wood, all the way over in Brisbane in Australia. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I'd love to maybe in 6 to 12 months' time touch base with you again and get you back on, and maybe delve into another milkshake moment, or really delve into a particular area, because I've got a couple of ideas I'm thinking you could really be useful and help our community as well. So we'd love to have you back if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'd love that.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Well, Lauren, you have a lovely day in Missouri, and I believe it's the evening there on Friday. Yes. It's Saturday morning here, so we're about to kickstart our day. But yeah, a big thank you for joining us, Lauren, and we look forward to speaking to you very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Big thank you for everyone who's been tuning in. We are going to be back in another 7 days' time with our next episode of the Raymond Wood Podcast. And as again, in the show notes below, we will put the bio, and we'll put all of Lauren's information in there if you are interested in joining us. We hope you have an amazing weekend, and we look forward to seeing you all on our next episode.